motivation to learn about other cultures, histories, art, or music can be the manner by which that knowledge can enhance our own lives. If we live a pace of life that seems too fast and inhumane, we can ask, where in the world do we find cultures that place greater value on human sensitivity, or who live at a slower, perhaps more humanistic pace? And if the manner by which we live life compromises common hospitality or the placing of others and the building of deep relationships below our own wants and needs, perhaps there are cultures who model self-sacrificing love, chivalry, and the deepest hospitality or sacrificial love above personal desire. Poetry in ancient Mesopotamia, Arabia, Greece, Persia, and across the Roman, Byzantine, and Turkish empires has been used as a way to exalt human virtues, bring governance and society accountable, and identify the qualities of sacrificial love and deepest human emotion. We met with Dr. Khatan Mandwi, professor of Arabic poetry and literature, himself a known poet, and professional musician Victor Hanem, to discuss the influence of poetry on the culture and music of the Middle East.
We were talking about the influence or the role of poetry in the behavior and fate of the Arabs. In fact, the Arabs pride themselves on three traits, three issues, very important in their lives. One of them is their generosity. They believe they were very hospitable and generous people. And the second trait is their chivalry, their knighthood. They believe that people have to be brave. In fact, Napoleon said, if my soldiers have the bravery of the Arabs and the stubbornness of the Persians, I would have conquered the whole universe. And the third trait that the Arabs pride themselves on is their poetry. Their poetry is their essence, is the food of the soul to them. They are poets by nature.
Poetry across the Middle East extends back 2,000 to 3,000 years. By the end of the 8th century, Arabic and Persian poetic writing and recitation in imitation of earlier poets, such as Imrul Aqais and Zayd ibn Abi Sulman, whose work parallels the beginning of Islam, were increasingly emulated across the Middle East. By the 10th century, Arab poets such as Al-Mutanabi spread the influence of poetry from the courts and mosques into the daily culture of the Arab world.
The greatest poet, Al-Mutanabbi, who is to me the greatest poet ever walked the face of the earth, died because of a poem he wrote. He was murdered. He has the greatest talent of all, not from the 9th century to the present time, but 1 millennium before that. Mm-hmm. So I would say Al-Mutanabbi is just a historical jump. Nobody could ever match him. And we talk about Shakespeare in English language, and sometimes I tell my friends that Mutanabbi put Shakespeare in his pocket.
Wow. So strong was the Arab and Persian passion for versifying everyday life that we can encounter poetry in almost every classical work, whether in literature, science, or metaphysics. The influence extends itself even into daily life.
Arabic poetry played a very important, essential role in the behavior and fate of the Arabs in general. As I said to you, that they are either lovers of poetry or they are poets themselves, because you find most of them write poetry or they are infatuated with poetry. And it played a very important role in their lives, that when they talk to you, they read you a line of poetry. When they swear to you, when they give you advice, they give you a line of poetry. So it is completely connected with the culture itself. And
the quest for purpose as a fulfillment of life made poetry the bridge between religion and the day-to-day culture of the region.
And then the third person will bring with meme also. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to translate to you for the first line I said, which is, I have lived 80 years, and whoever lived 80 years get bored of life. That's the first person. And he is one of the people of Mu'allaqat. These are the most famous 7 poems in the Arab history. And they are hanged on the lions or the walls of Mecca, of Kaaba, where they go for pilgrimage.
The topics of poetry and song both reflect and fortify the cultural values and customs of the region. Among them, the manner by which poetry completely influences music.
I would say that poetry evolved before music.
That's what I would have guessed the same thing.
Because their instruments are very limited.
But then, per se, did they actually sometimes recite in a musical way?
Yes. عبد الرزاق عبد الواحد مثلا يقول قدمت وعفوك من مقدمي قدمت وعفوك من مقدمي فعول 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 فعول.
Music of the region is largely melodic and patterned after the rhythms, meter, and even intonations of spoken words. The maqam or dasgal, Arabic or Persian scales or melodic modes, are designed to emulate emotion.
And in the Arabic music, we have a variety of maqams, which are basically musical scales. And we've got the basics. And in addition to that, there are many variations of it, and they interact in a way where you could start, you've got a simple, a major scale, and then, and love, of course, plays into it, and heartache, and the saddest one of all is called Sabah.
Sabah.
Among the more interesting Middle Eastern poetic and musical formulas is the mahwal, a tradition of the singer-poet demonstrating his vocal skill before the song begins, and the taksim, an instrumentally improvised section which will precede the chanted or sung poem or song. Both of these represent in music the tradition of the region to give time to transition from the material world to the spiritual or musical world. Much like the tradition of offering tea before dinner or conducting business, the mahwal or taksim are a type of musical tea, a transition to the spiritual world.
Basically, when you do taksim, which is an improvisational piece, totally unrehearsed usually. Some people try to plan it out and have an idea what they want to do, but you're basically playing whatever's on your mind and what's in your heart.
The poet starts very slowly and then goes to the emotion, raises the emotion of the audience gradually, and suddenly he will hit them with a line of poetry that they never expected, and that's where the climax of the paragraph comes, and then they will be influenced completely.
Persian history dates back over 6,000 years into history, and Persian poetry and literature leaves traces over the last 2,500 years. Although there are numerous monuments and magnificent buildings scattered across what is now Iran, such as those found in Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the Persian Empire 300 to 400 years before Christ. A visit to Shiraz, a leading center of the arts, reminds us that Persian poetry, art, and music have inspired many around the world for centuries. The Persian poets Sa'di, Rumi, and Hafez wrote numerous verses and poems depicting the ideal state of the human soul, desiring oneness with God, and exalting sacrificial love for others with deepest emotion into the heart of Persian culture.
In Persian country, in Persian culture, what is most important is love, 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 and hospitality. If you come over my house, you can see this hospitality. You can see this love. You can see this emotion that if there is no emotion, there is no life for me. افسوس که نامه جوانی طی شد. افسوس که نامه جوانی طی شد. وان تازه بهار زندگانی دی شد. آن مرغ طرب که نام او بود شباب، فریاد ندانم که کی آمد کی شد.
چون زلف توام جانا در عین پریشانی، چون باد سحرگاهم در بی سر و سامانی. من خاکم و من گردم، من اشکم و من دردم، تو مهری و تو نوری، تو عشقی و تو جانی. خواهم که تو را در بر بنشانم و بنشینم، تا آتش جانم را بنشینی و بنشانی. من سلسله موجم، تو سلسله جنبانی. از آتش سودایت دارم من دارد دل، راهی که نمیبینی، دردی که نمیدانی. دل با من و جان بی تو نسپاری و بسپارم، کام از تو و تاب از من نستانم و بستانی، نستانم و بستانی.
Invasion of Iraq. بغداد أرهقك الظنا فتجلدي، بغداد أرهقك الظنا فتجلدي، وعلى وفاء الصابرين تعودي، فعسى يعود لك الهنا بعد العنا، والصبح يشرق بعد ليل أسود. لا تجزعي ألما ولا تترددي، لا تشتكي بلواك لا تتنهدي، مروا طغاة الأرض فيك فلم ينل أحد رضاك، وما رضخت لأحد. يفدي ترابك من عاداك يا وطني، يا منبع الفكر والأخلاق والسنن، يفديك من ضر غصنا منك في عمد، أو مس ماءك في سوء وفي ضغن، وكل فج وموبوء ومنشرق